So, Animation Workers Ignited have kicked off their movement, which is catching heat, and they recently put out a series of PSAs with Adam Conover of Adam Ruins Everything. So bear with me. There are some points that I feel should see the light of day, so be it.
Wow, so this is where cartoons get made.
Not anymore. Cartoon Network is essentially dead. And other big animation studios are not far behind.
What the hell?
What the hell? What's Netflix doing there? It should be Netflix Animation. If you have a Netflix show like The Queen's Gambit, those producers tapped vendors like Chicken Bone FX as their partner with some internal labor. The anime and children's shows, full-on animated, yes, that's where you have the full-time animation workers with salaries. But yes, the concerns they raise here, it's the same case for most visual effects studios right now. That's all the minutiae I have, so on to the main points from here.
What happened to all the animation workers?
A lot of them are unemployed, in record numbers in fact, and many have been unemployed for upwards of a year.
Unemployed is a key word here. But there's another key word, which is them. And by that, I mean the animators that they refer to here specifically. Let Go from Cartoon Network, Disney, Nickelodeon, Titmouse, Buck. Amani LaRussa and Zach King, two contemporary examples, haven't been necessarily unemployed. They've been killing it since before the pandemic, into the short-lived era of the content wars, the NFT craze. They haven't necessarily slowed down. Animation Workers Ignited refers to the animator role in this pigeonholed context of cartoons, even in the 3D context, to what has historically been the main hustle, the main thing. Motion graphics artists might be referred here, but they are defining characteristics to that job. Animator and VFX artists in the creator space, those terms have been used so interchangeably it's not even funny. 3D cartoons, 3D animation, and visual effects, it's creative production and post-production. The term animator here abides by a standard education to employment model and a timeline, a mixture of skills, software knowledge, and desired companies, a list, maybe even personality type, who knows. But all of that is considered in this context of animator when they talk about this here. And this TikTok ad doesn't seem to take into account the alternative opportunities, deployments, other deployments of most working creatives who became corporate creatives full-time, and that's a little bit of a derogatory term for some people, who ended up in maybe, say, I don't know, brand development or mid-sized agencies that do work for Fortune 500 companies, where animation wasn't the brunt of their skill set, but where's the representation there? As an example from contemporary history, after the 90s ended and club music had propelled pop music into what it is, filled with lip sync and backing tracks, working musicians knew the only way they'd be riding life on easy mode or making good consistent money, the only options they had, A, move on to different ventures entirely, B, if they were competent, intelligent generalists who found compromise in unusual places, they could steward themselves to careers that sought out talent with a great ear for sound design jobs, careers that banked on knowledge of analog and digital electronics from knowing their equipment inside and out, event planning from the stage and venue, and immersive experience from being part of the whole grind itself. Or C, they were taken back into the music industry, studio, and touring by someone who was still operating in the fray, who built formidable relationships with the likes of Paramore, The Killers, My Chemical Romance, rode those waves, and worked full-time in music again. Happy ending. Viewers of all ages, you all trained at different points in time to be animators with the ideal end goal working at the big leagues and with the expectation that Cartoon Network and Disney will hire you because you got good and also because those studios still have the upper hand culturally. Therefore, they're viable livelihoods for you. On your journeys, you found what? You became storyboard artists, and if you were good with cameras in 3D, smart in cinematography, you could land previs jobs. A lot of money in pre-visualization. Because if they started projects that were scrapped, they were still doing development for them. And that's the first department in line to get work, development. Because they will start something and might not finish it regardless. You'll get paid for what is done. And save that phrase, you get paid for what's done, for what is being asked of you, for later.
They carried the industry during the pandemic.
That's right. When COVID first hit, animation was able to operate completely remotely, making it one of the only forms of entertainment that could continue production uninterrupted. But studios decided to pay them back by canceling projects, outsourcing jobs, and laying off artists en masse.
Oh, in 2020, any digital job was subject to permanent restructuring, varying from company to company depending on who we're talking about and their value system. There are relatively well-known companies who have for a long time used remote talent that never stepped foot in the offices or the headquarters. Remote work isn't new. It's just standardized. We all had to accept that during COVID-19. You were either someone who was crestfallen by it, who got upset, or it simply didn't faze you, and it was normal. Like, I'm not really touching on AI-driven production here because, I don't know, perfume shoe companies put it out, and then it gets posted on LinkedIn, and then It gets shut down in comments if there's a case of plagiarism or what have you, which is a legitimate concern. This labor crisis isn't due to AI solely. There were ideas that were toyed with but went nowhere, so I'm not really going to touch on that. There's nothing to touch on in this context. So moving on. As for the general case of outsourcing in this field, the product the executives knew they were going to get back 9 out of 10 times if they've been through this from the countries they outsource to. It sufficed. And 90% of the time, people noticed and tweeted about it, and life goes on. Again, we're narrowed to talking about the animator role in the context of 2D, 3D cartoons at long form and commercials because that's what historically has been the mainstream medium. I mean, good Lord, this is what you say you like to do, and it's your passion. Great. But you're good at one big thing that involves sub-skills, a discipline with sub-disciplines, and you might have another sub-discipline or discipline that you're good at that falls under a different industrial umbrella. You realize that the words in the industry at this point, in the industry means you're in the industry if you say that you are. And then comes the area that millennials and Gen Z know all too well, grew up with, and resort to as a point of reference, which we saw meet the basic criteria of being deemed an industry, the content creation industry. Amani LaRussa, Egoraptor, Oni NG, Cash Bunny, Alan Becker, Felix Colgrave, and Zach King. One or two of these people, or more, maybe have worked on traditional programming, but other than that, most of them, on top of commissions from their work, their content creation, earn their income through ad revenue, partnerships, and brand endorsements, some of which came through creator funds, even Patreon sometimes. These individuals are part of an inner circle of established content creators like Casey Neistat that mingled and became friendly with the social media influencer space. So 90% of the time in 2020 to 2022, these videographers / Adobe creators, it's a large pool, in addition to their longtime client relationships, got involved with the influencers almost to the point because they were recommended by someone else, where they were in the same category. These people could be former YouTubers that started doing short form after COVID-19 thwarted their trajectories, or these new players who signed up with creator talent agencies. But mind you, this was a new way of business, and the videographers / Adobe creators have historically been working on all sorts of projects, from sports games to festival recaps to independent film projects. The first two of those spaces involve a lot of drone work now, as well as video editing. And the video editing is often done by the drone pilots themselves because they have to know this end-to-end linear production turnover cycle in order to remain competitive. And word of mouth does its job. But it's like a casino. This used to be the exception to the rule, which might now be the rule to the exception in the content space, in the content creation space. Some of these creators were in line for business because they had a couple music videos on their resume, in addition to promo content of all sorts. We're talking about digital artistry at the end of the day. We're also talking about what are people preoccupying themselves with in this space that we're acknowledging and calling a space. Clout as a result of your reach, brand endorsements. Clout as a result of said brand endorsements, passive income streams. You're either stuck with the paltry series of W-4 paychecks in this space, or a solid, straight volume of 1099 paychecks. People just have to know who the hell you are.
But why would they do that?
Why else? Greed. Big studios make their finances look better by reducing spending and cutting staff. CEOs and executives reaping the monetary benefits for themselves.
Yes, and that's what happens. They can do that. So what are you going to do for you?
So they want to reap, huh? I'll show them reap.
I don't think you'll be doing much with a plastic scythe, but you can help by spreading the word. Post about your favorite Cartoon Network shows you wish were still around using hashtag RIP Cartoon Network, and stay tuned for more ways to help tag by following this account. Animation is under attack. Which side are you on?
Yeah, this is like, the biggest underlying wake-up call to animation aspirees trying to get into technical jobs and creative jobs and not get left in the dirt, the mound of which is growing. Realize that your skills have been deployed in all different kinds of fields since before the 21st century. Your time in college at the School of Visual Arts, Sheridan, or Rhode Island School of Design are all cultural holdovers from the 2000s when there were less options for the general public in media and entertainment. Now we have more options. Outside of television and motion pictures, ArcViz, medical, sports. These fields usually have places that hire creatives in digital art and production. They don't necessarily hire character artists. They can definitely pitch you for that and bid on you for a specific project. In the end, after a while, the creative art space, the creative carte blanche will be given to anyone who can meet the quality specs of their final product, being asked, in knowing how to model, how to light, how to texture, how to draw, how to composite, even in the context of digital imaging, having the eye for it, and maybe even knowing how to use a nonlinear video editor for something specific, including essential graphical foundations like typography on their own, and for client reviews and meeting that. This is upskilling in times of shifting supply-demand cycles. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you.